Welcome back to the Get Good Scrub podcast. It's your boy, Cool Guy Fonz, joined by our very own Barrett Wallace, MarcTheCyborg.
I actually don't know that one.
Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I haven't played the remake, so Barrett's last name wasn't in my head. I guess I also never really thought of him as a cyborg, but I suppose you're right. Yeah, he is.
Yeah. He has a gun arm.
Yeah, well, like, that's the thing. It's a gun arm, and I kind of think of that more as his weapon than as, like, a prosthetic limb.
Yeah, I got you.
But I mean, it is. So, like, yeah, you're very correct. Yeah, Barrett Wallace.
Especially
Actually, I wonder how many of the last names of Final Fantasy VII characters I forgot. I know Tifa's last name is Lockhart.
Yep. Cloud, come on. It's easy.
Okay, Strife. Yeah, but he's the main character.
Aerith?
Gainsborough? It's something like that, I think.
Yep, Gainsborough.
Mo, nailed it.
And
Sid
then,
Highwind, that's an easy one, but there's always a Sid, so it's almost like his first name doesn't count. If you've played any other Final Fantasy.
And then Red 11, I think, or Red 14.
13, I think. But, I mean, I don't know, is that his last name?
Yeah. Anyways, coming up with the news that it is finally coming to PC, Final Fantasy VII, as well as the Yuffie DLC, but with a caveat.
I'm going to be playing it on PS5, apparently.
Epic Store exclusive. I don't think that's going to be forever, though. I think that's just launch.
Maybe not, and I might end up picking it up on Steam, and hey, if I keep on putting off playing it for as long as I have been already, it might just end up coming out on Steam before I even play it on PlayStation. But with it and another game that we're probably going to talk about later, I think I would assume that there would be things that could get me to break my Epic boycott. But now that some of the ones are happening where it's like, no, I really want to play that game, I'm just like, all right, fine, I'll play it on console.
Ooh. Like, decisions have to be made, right? So
yeah, I know.
So in today's episode, we got Arcane, a new TV show based on League of Legends. Yeah, to discuss. Really obviously, good. We've been deep in the Halo Infinite. You a lot deeper than I have been. Ubisoft's NFT trailer at the Game Awards, and pretty much the Game Awards in general. But let's start off with Arcane, produced by a French company, Fortiche, along with Riot Games, serving as a prequel to League of Legends, telling the backstory of some of its major characters. It's a Netflix exclusive, but it did stream on Twitch, during which, the pilot did, where you could also get in-game drops for their other games, Valorant, League of Legends, Wild Rift. Rocking 100% score on RT with an audience score of 97. Like, not that that's the judgment for us, but it's just, a good benchmark to have. Yeah,
and this is one that I think actually deserves it, like, at least to an extent. Although with the 100%, at least from the critic ones, that's just everything needs to be above a 6 out of 10. It's also kind of why I don't really like Rotten Tomatoes scores, because, like, if you do a 5-star rating, 3 stars, a lot of people are like, oh, 3 stars, that's 6 out of 10. It's like, it's kind of not really, though, because the star system isn't math. It's different.
Like, but like you said, it definitely deserves it.
Yeah, I think it's honestly, it's one of the best written shows, live action, anime or not, that I've seen in a long time. It was very, very solid, and I would almost argue that you might like it more if you know nothing about League of Legends, because there are certain characters who change and become different and turn into the champions from the game, like heroes in League of Legends. So if you know that that's where they're going, you know that character's probably not going to die, and that it's likely going to result in them getting essentially superpowers of some kind. And the world building in this the world building in this movie does not require you to have played a second of League of Legends to know a single character's name. It's just a really, really well-written show with great characters.
But like, on the other end of it, if you do know where these players are gonna go, like if you grew up playing League of Legends and like just know these characters of where they end up, it very similar to Darth Vader, right? Like,
yeah.
When you see his intro, you're like, oh, I know what's going to happen to this guy. which I can't tell it from that point of view. It's just I know that point of view is out there, right? But the show is amazing. I'm only halfway through, and like you said, like the twists of it are really good, and the world building of it is just incredible. Along with the production value of it, like not since Avatar have we seen something like this ahead of a curve.
Yeah, and it's like it's really amazing that such an incredible visual experience came from what is like an animated show based on a video game that's just on Netflix. Like, it's not like a big budget Hollywood movie. It's just it's kind of like 3 movies in a way. It's sort of the first 3 episodes, the middle 3 episodes, and then the last 3 episodes. And I think that that's probably the best way to watch them. So if you haven't seen Arcane yet, I'd recommend make it like a movie night. So just watch 3 episodes at a time. And it's like a trilogy of really, really awesome kind of steampunk / like, I guess, magic punk movies. And they're really good. In fact, I think that we're going to be talking a little bit about the Suicide Squad at the very end of this, not the movie, the game. And Arcane does the Harley Quinn character, essentially, or like the Harley Quinn archetype of like cute pixie maniac girl better than like Warner Brothers Pictures has been able to do with the actual Harley Quinn.
And you're talking about V, right?
Jinx, actually.
Oh, okay.
Vi, her sister, is kind of sort of more of a hero character, but Jinx, who is sort of the main
crazy one
character, like the one who's I probably shouldn't spoil the first 3 episodes, but she starts out one way in the first 3 episodes, and then something happens and she kind of goes crazy, but they actually make her like an interesting character. And I don't think that Warner Brothers has done as well with Harley Quinn in the movies. So that was really cool to see that type of character can be very compelling. Yeah.
And fun fact, Vi, Jinx's sister, is voiced by Haley Steinfeld, Gwen Stacy from the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, and she's also in Hawkeye right now, too. She's Kate Bishop.
Okay.
And she was in the Bumblebee movie. Like, she's like the main character in Transformers Bumblebee.
I'm pretty sure I lost Transformers after the first one.
Honestly, Bumblebee's like the best one.
Okay.
No, like I think it's better than the first one, actually. I never really got the people that were like, man, the Transformers movie sucks, except for the first one. That one was good. It's like, no, it wasn't.
No, they
that
all
one was
suck.
also very bad. Like, if anything, there was a few decent action scenes in maybe the first and third one. I would argue more the third one, and I think part of that was because James Cameron was like basically assistant directing in some of the action scenes to be like, look, if you're going to shoot in IMAX 3D, you can't be doing the shaking close-up shit, Michael Bay. Like, you got to calm down a little. And I think that worked out pretty well. But no, Bumblebee actually is pretty good. Like, I mean, it's still cheesy, silly Transformers. It's still a Michael Bay movie, but no, it's not. That's why.
Okay. But
it's the guy who directed Kubo and the Two Strings. Like, it's actually a pretty decent like family sci-fi action movie. Like,
all right, I have to check it out sometime. But in the meantime, we've had our hands on Halo Infinite right now. Released December 8th, especially the campaign came on Game Pass day 1, which has been amazing. First Halo in 6 years. I'm still like not even into the main game yet. I've only played the first 2 missions, but you finished the campaign already?
Yeah, I beat the game on legendary difficulty, and it was a wild ride. Honestly, though, the legendary difficulty is about where it is in Halo Reach. Like, it's not that bad. Which is actually, it made it even funnier when I would see online there'd be people complaining that like the bosses are broken and that the game's like too hard on heroic difficulty. I'm just like, I was like, I don't know. Like on heroic difficulty, I've been playing up in the bedroom on a controller, just kind of casually at night before bed, and I die when I make a very blatantly dumb mistake because I'm trying something crazy. But other than that, I'm basically untouchable on heroic difficulty. So I'm like, I don't know what these people were expecting, selecting anything above easy if they think heroic is like a broken difficulty. Because I'm like, yo, like even legendary is not unreasonable. Like I think if you've ever beaten a Halo, any other Halo game, if you've ever beaten it on heroic, I think you can beat Infinite on legendary. And I would say the same about Reach.
Okay. You enjoying playing it more on controller or mouse and keyboard?
Mouse and keyboard. And I'll tell you why. The grappling hook that you get in this game. No, because if you haven't even got to Zeta Halo yet, you don't quite understand what I'm about to say. Once you get the ability for it that recharges it 40% faster, the movement in this becomes an Attack on Titan video game. And I was just like, wait, hold on a second. It recharges and I can fire the grappling hook again before I hit the ground if I just shot myself up to a tree? This changes everything. And the next thing I know, I'm like scaling up mountains by like launching myself up a little bit, having the physics kind of float me in the air and then shooting up a bit further. You can kind of do the Skyrim, I'm just going to keep pressing jump and hope I make my way up this mountain, but you're doing it with a grappling hook and it actually feels good to play.
Yeah.
Because it's the physics actually carrying you up. It's not the game realizing, oh, okay, player press jump. Let's put him one little bit up. It's you can actually like feel the weight of, depending on where exactly you shoot and what angle you get. When you're going through the trees, it's kind of crazy too. And the way you can utilize that in combat is really, really awesome. Like there was one boss where actually I think this might have been the same post that I was reading on Facebook where a guy was complaining about heroic difficulty being broken. There's this one boss who has a gravity hammer and you're in a kind of C-shaped, I guess, I think it's a excavating machine of some kind, like it shoots lasers into this thing, but you're in basically the control room of a crane, but it's this big like C-shaped room. And there's a guy with a gravity hammer in there that has this attack where he can jump and like dash towards you in midair and then hit you with the gravity hammer. So the way you need to get around is by shooting the ceiling with the grappling hook and firing yourself out of his range and then turning around and giving him some headshots like with the battle rifle or whatever you have in the room that you can find to kill him with. And it's just like, man, the second that starts to click, and especially if you get decent, this I think is easier to do on PC because the different abilities that you have are mapped to the buttons, whereas on console you have to hit, I think it's right on the directional pad and then up, down, left, or right to select one of the 4 different things, but it's like right to open up your abilities menu, and the grenades are kind of the same, it's just you hit left first. And that I could imagine would be pretty cumbersome, though I haven't gotten that far with the controller, so I don't really know. But once you get good at like switching between the drop shield that you have come up and the little threat sensor beacon and this dash that you have, like basically all the items from multiplayer, it's those, but you can, in the open world, collect these Spartan upgrade cores that give you stronger abilities, and as you upgrade these abilities, they become incredibly valuable, like way more so than they are in multiplayer. For example, the drop shield, the first few upgrades of any ability, it's all just make the thing stronger, like better, bigger shield, stronger shield that lasts longer, faster recharge. But the 4th upgrade of each one does something crazy to them. So for the drop shield, it makes it so that your shield's electrified. So every single shot that you send through the shield does shock damage as well. So it's just like, man, I'm like applying like RPG style damage systems or like Destiny elemental damage in a Halo game. Like this is wild. And the electric shock damage is kind of like the disruptor or the shock rifle where it like does chain lightning. Yeah. So you can just clear entire areas if you have that upgrade, because it's like, okay, now anyone I'm shooting, I'm doing damage to everyone around them. It's nuts. The dash, like the thruster ability, when you get the 4th upgrade on that one, it turns you stealth, like invisible for a short amount of time. So especially on the final boss, not the final boss, sorry. Although I kind of used it on that person as well. I'm not going to say who. But the second last boss, which is kind of, you sort of think it's going to be the last boss fight, that I don't think I would have been able to even finish it if I didn't have the dash and the invisibility that made it so that, oh, he lost track of me. That's pretty good. And which ones? The threat sensor makes it so that it's constant. So the first upgrade of it, or the first version of it, it just gives you little pulses where you can see people through walls. The third one makes it so that it's constant. So you're always just seeing whoever's in this little threat sensor bubble. And the fourth one shows you enemy health. I can't tell you how much less annoying it was fighting the hunters in this game when I could tell exactly how much health they had left, because I knew what weapons were doing what kind of damage, where I was shooting them. And this is the first Halo game where when you're fighting the hunters, you can't really do the hunter dance. The hunter dance is kind of a thing you do in Halo where you bait a melee attack from them, and then as they lunge forward at you, you kind of step to the right, and then they overshoot you and they expose their weak spot, and then you shoot it. I could not get that to work even once. So I was like, oh man, I can't hunter dance. Like, what do I do? I found out that spiker shots to the head work very well, and the Ravager's area of effect damage. Like that, that weapon that's almost straight useless in multiplayer.
Yeah.
Like that does the little damage over time field.
Yeah.
That is incredible to use against hunters in the campaign. So I guess like what I'm trying to say is the gameplay isn't just the multiplayer gameplay, but you're fighting against enemies. There are some pretty significant differences that I think work very well to make it feel like the campaign is when you're playing as Master Chief. It's like you're one of the other Spartans and you can still do some of this stuff, but you can't do all of it and have it be super powered versions of it because he has crazy upgraded armor. It sucks that you haven't gotten to Zeta Halo, because I think the most sort of important thing to talk about when it comes to Halo Infinite is the structure of the missions. And right now, if you just played the first two missions,
they're just campaign missions.
Yeah, it just seems like a normal Halo game, right?
Yeah. But I know it becomes the open world once you get to Zeta Halo.
Yeah, and I don't think that, unlike most open world games where, I don't know, if you've played one, you kind of have played them all. Sort of like, I mean, you
like Far Cry.
You sort of understand their structure, and I think a lot of people will be going into Halo Infinite expecting something maybe a bit different than what it is, but at least I really like what it is or how they structured it, because I think it strips away a lot of the stuff that annoy me about open world games. And I mean, this is again, it's a personal preference thing. So I'm not saying that this is why Halo Infinite is better than, say, Far Cry 5 or 6 or whatever. But it's why I had more fun playing it personally, because there's no kind of BS activities or not necessarily all of it's BS in Far Cry. Some of it's fun, but like hunting and skinning animals to get different upgrades, or climbing towers, or, oh, now here's a race mission that you can go do over here, or I can go play poker with this guy. Like, all of that stuff is kind of stripped away, and it's like, hey, welcome to Zeta Halo. You do Halo combat here. That's all you do. You're Master Chief.
Yeah.
You fight who are basically the Covenant. They're sort of like the First Order to the Empire, but the Banished are effectively the Covenant as far as how it is to fight them. And it feels really good to do that. So we're just going to give you a bunch of excuses to go do this thing. Like, it really kind of hammers home the kind of classic thing that Bungie always said about why Halo is fun to play. That they're like, Halo, it just nails the 30 seconds of fun. That guns, grenades, melee, and these enemy types is 30 seconds of fun that you do over and over and over again. But because that 30 seconds is so good and so flexible, it feels like you're doing a bunch of other different things. But ultimately, it's like, no, you're knocking down shields, you're headshotting enemies, you're throwing grenades, and you're meleeing people. And that's pretty much it. but you do it a lot in this game. And there's a lot of really, really interesting scenarios, and I think this is, again, a thing that's sort of I like it when games do this. You can approach those scenarios in many, many different ways because of the way the game is structured and because of the mobility that you have in it. So you can see an enemy forward operating base, which is the equivalent of a Far Cry tower, because it's basically just your fast travel point and you have to unlock it. And it's sort of a little bit of an outpost, because it's like, hey, there's a bunch of enemies. We gotta kill those enemies and then take over this little base. And that sounds like it's not very interesting, but it's like, okay, well, I could spawn a warthog at one of my other bases, and every one of your bases has a bunch of Marines standing around it too, like just kind of hanging out, and they'll hop in your warthog or in the gunner seat of your Scorpion or whatever, and you can roll in with vehicles, or you can just Spider-Man your way around the perimeter of it, take one out, and then I don't know, like go for the strong enemies with sniper rifle. Like, you can just kind of decide, hey, here's how I'm going to do this, and then you can just do it. And if there's any viability to your strategy at all, it's going to work. And like, even on legendary difficulty, that's pretty impressive, because there's lots of first-person shooters where it's like, here is the solution. Do the solution, and if you raise the difficulty, you'll die faster and the enemies will die less fast, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. And whereas here it's like, the enemies using more grenades and having more power weapons on the higher difficulties, it actually like changes your plan. It's like, well, what am I going to do? Like, what do I have on me, and how can I use what I have on me to either get better equipment or actually finish this fight? And I don't know. I think that you really kind of have to play the campaign of Halo Infinite to really get what I'm talking about. And you may disagree, like, because I think that there's definitely an argument to be made that the game is like empty, like it's an open world with not really anything in it, like I said, except for Halo combat. I just happen to really like Halo combat, and I can see when they present interesting scenarios, and I appreciate playing through them. Whereas some people have the reaction to Halo combat, it's like, it's just kind of slow. And if you're playing on an easier difficulty, it's like, it's just shoot and press the trigger until all the enemies fall. Like, it's not really that big a deal. But it's like, well, higher difficulty Halo though is, it's kind of like a combat puzzle. And,
well, if anything, the multiplayer has shown that like people enjoy this style of combat, right? Like, they don't like if Halo was 30 seconds of combat, then like Call of Duty is like 5 to 10 seconds of combat, right? Exactly. And like people like are just, not that people are tired of that, just people, I feel like we're missing the Halo version of this, right? And it's the same with I know, like, I talk about it more on a multiplayer aspect of it, which I've been loving. Like, there have been a couple nights this week where I'm like, all right, let me get onto this story, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna one game of ranked, just one game, and then that turns into like 4 hours. You're like, oh man, totally should have stopped at some point. Yeah, but the gameplay is
probably
just
could
that
finish
much
the
fun.
campaign in the time you've been playing.
I honestly didn't play 4 hours straight, but like, you know what it's like when multiplayer hours just disappear, right?
Yeah,
and I think
it
it's
can get
like,
very easy to lose track of time while you're playing multiplayer, for sure.
But I also think that once I get to this open world as well, like, I think this is just bare bones Halo Infinite. I think they'll be adding to it. Like, this is, the word infinite is there for a reason. Like, I think they don't plan on making another Halo game for a while. It's just going to be like adding to this game. And from what it sounds like, it is that the base is amazing. Now let's just see what happens from here on in, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot they can do with it and a lot of places they can go. I think that story-wise, they're in a much better place at the end of this game than they were at any point in Halo 5. I think that it did have some of the, I don't mean it to sound as bad as this, but some of the Rise of Skywalker problems of just like, okay, people really hated that last game that we made. We got to kind of fix it and turn some of this stuff around because no one likes the direction the story's going into. And you can definitely feel that in the way the story unfolds. In fact, like a lot of people I've seen, like even on Twitter and stuff, have said like, yeah, so like what happened to Spartan Locke and like all of Fireteam Osiris and everything. And I think actually Shiny FX, who like he does a podcast with Literature Devils, another YouTuber, I shared a shot of one of the enemies in the game who has a Spartan Locke from Halo 5's helmet just on his shoulder. It's like, oh, so I guess Locke's dead. They sort of just did that off camera, and he was the main character in Halo 5. So it's like, oof, well, man, rough. But I mean, overall, I thought the story was pretty good. The weapon, who is the sort of Cortana looking girl that's in the trailers, she's sassy and she's really bubbly and sweet, which is kind of a contrast to Cortana's more sort of sultry, like femme fatale, like not really femme fatale, but you know, kind of more serious and mature, dry humor. Yeah. And I think that it's kind of neat that it's sort of the same voice, like it's the same voice actress, but she sounds different, and she sounds like she's very much a different character. There is a strong element of like, okay, so should we just call her New Cortana? It's like, well, I mean, yeah, like that's kind of what she is, but the thing that makes it not just, oh, it's Cortana's just back, is their personalities are actually quite different. The only other character really in the game, like that's not an enemy, like friendly character who has a personality, is the pilot, the sort of Antonio Banderas sounding guy that's also in the trailers. It's really just those three characters are the three characters that are in the game as far as friendlies go. And you know, I mean, it keeps it simple. And that's maybe not super interesting, and I wouldn't say this is anywhere close to being like the best Halo campaign from a story standpoint, but it's like, let's kind of go back to basis. Halo, like Master Chief's stranded on a ring, shit's going down on the ring. They're going to solve the situation and maybe set up some future events. And I think that keeping the multiplayer free to play and being supported by microtransactions and just giving the story team with hopefully Joseph Staten on board in a more permanent way at 343, just the ability to write whatever the hell he wants and the team as much time as they need. Like if in 2 years we get Halo Infinite Campaign 2 or whatever they're going to call it, Halo Infinite, and then a subtitle like Halo Infinite Resurrection, I don't know, Rising.
No, but they can also just do like, it doesn't even have to be like a DLC like campaign. It's just like, hey, granted, I don't know how it ends, but I could just imagine like, hey, there's something we need you to do on Zeta. Like, again, I don't know how it ends. Or, hey, we need you to do this in some planet close by or on another Halo ring.
There's 3 very good member berry awards. I'll say that much. But anyways, but you're right. Like they do set up like, hey, there's still some things going on here, and the series can kind of go in a new direction. But I think that I was more talking about from a business plan standpoint. I think if they started releasing every couple of years a new Halo campaign that was like $30 or $40, whatever it would be, like not full price, $70 game.
Very similar to Destiny, like what Destiny's been doing with Destiny 2.
Exactly. And I kept on thinking, I was like, wait, what if Destiny's expansions didn't come with strikes, didn't come with raids, didn't come with a whole bunch of new weapons and stuff? It was just, it's only story missions, but they're really good.
Yeah.
and they're worth playing just on their own and worth the money to pay for, because I think that was always the problem with, again, I haven't played Destiny.
We've lost off Destiny 2 for a while now. Forsaken was the last one I played.
I didn't even play Forsaken. That was the one I stopped before because I didn't finish the Warmind DLC. Yeah. And that's the thing, because like I think it was Warmind, right? The one, the second after the Mercury one. Anyway,
sure.
There was like I just couldn't really get into the story, so I was sort of burning out on Destiny anyways. And I think if the story missions in Destiny told a compelling thing where it's like every year or so a Destiny expansion comes out and I can play it for 6 to 10 hours and get like a really solid campaign with very good gameplay that's already been set up, I'd be up for that. And I think that Halo's in a good position to be a very interesting type of live service, especially if it's like boxed products, or effectively boxed products, like campaigns that it's like you pay for this campaign and then free multiplayer. which means, again, we've talked about this before in a multiplayer impressions, the no barrier for entry. You can just play Halo Infinite multiplayer if you want. That's really, really cool. And well, we're not going to go too far into the multiplayer because we talked about this stuff. If they fix the microtransactions and the progression in Halo Infinite's multiplayer, I think they could find themselves in a really good spot over the next, honestly, like 10 years if they do it the same way Destiny did, but kind of better in a way because they can learn from Destiny's mistakes. It'll be an interesting time to be a Halo fan. I guess that's probably the most important thing to say.
And not to mention like Microsoft backing you up versus Bungie's just on their own now with their own little problems going on right now. Like Microsoft, 343 seems like in a much better position to do this right now.
Well, and think of how from like a marketing standpoint, if you're pulling all these people in with free to play Halo Infinite multiplayer, and it's like, oh wait, hold on, there's 4 Halo campaigns. Say we're in 2026 or something like that. There's 4 Halo campaigns that I can play. How much are they? It's like, well, I mean, they're, I don't know, like $20-$30 each now, but you could also just sign up for Game Pass and just play them all. Just play them, and it's like, wow, yeah, it's not a bad spot they're putting themselves in.
But speaking of making extra money on the side, Ubisoft announced NFTs in their games at the Game Award. Now, the game they used was
Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen the reaction. The problem is, like, I think that they announced this too soon because NFTs aren't properly understood by everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And
they're like, very misunderstood.
So, like, first of all, NFTs are literally just microtransactions at this point. Just what they want to do with it is different. And now we need to they're asking us to trust a company like Ubisoft or Activision or EA with this. And like, yes, we've seen how bad it can get. However, what I'm going to propose to you is an idea of, let's say you're playing Destiny 1, right? How cool would it be that you got your epic sword, you only got it in Void, and you don't feel like doing the grind anymore? You can buy someone else's sword from someone, and then you can have your sword. You pay that person. I'm sure Bungie will take a cut from that transaction. But the history of that sword is recorded on a blockchain, and you can see who got the sword the first time, who he sold it to, and then for then on, and what they did with it. So there is a cool idea attached to it. They just marketed it horribly.
Yeah, and I think Ubisoft is not great at marketing in general, but I think you're right in that it was too soon for them to try this, because especially when I'll see on Twitter and Facebook and everything, there are basically 3 camps of people when they hear the word or see the word NFT. There's people who are immediately like, NFT is a scam. Oh, those are horseshit. Those are absolute bullshit. Like they're trying to steal your money with those NFTs. They mean nothing. They're the worst thing in the world. They're destroying the environment. There's those people. Then there's the, oh man, it's just cryptocurrency. Give me all those. I want all the cat girl NFTs that I can. NFTs. I want NFT everything. And they're like, what's an NFT? And 90% of both of those camps are going to say it's like a picture that you can sell online and it costs money.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, if you spend any time looking up what an NFT actually is, it's not an image. It's not an exotic sword from Destiny. It's not a video. It's not a song. It's not a game. It is just a certificate of authenticity that says this thing is owned by the person who is in possession of it.
Exactly.
And where I think NFTs can be very, very valuable especially in the world that we're living in now, where digital content is, no one really knows what to do with it. With things, basically, there's 2 choices, I think, for digital content rights management. The first would be obviously the one that I advocate for all the time that we can discuss a bit, is DRM free. So no digital rights management. I mean, if you buy a sword from someone and you close your Destiny account, you should be able to still have that sword saved on a disc or something like that, and be able to reload it to your new account. I don't think that's going to happen though, because I think too many companies like making money. NFTs though are an interesting alternative, because basically what that would mean is, say I bought my copy of the Halo Infinite campaign if Steam sold me that game, not as an NFT, because I think that's what messes people up, but with an NFT that says that I legally bought this from Steam and it is mine now, and I get bored of the Halo Infinite campaign, I can say to Fonz, hey, do you want my copy of the Halo Infinite campaign? I don't want to play it anymore. And then I can give it to you, or I can sell it to you, and the value of it is whatever anyone wants to pay for it. The problem right now is people are speculating on like weird furry porn pictures that are going for like $60,000, and everyone's just like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I could just right click and save as image, and now I have that image too. It's not the image, though, that you're buying. It's the certificate of authenticity that says you own the image. So again, if you legally owned the Mona Lisa and could legally sell the Mona Lisa to another person, that is in fact different than someone going to the Louvre and taking a picture of the Mona Lisa with their phone and saying, guess what? I got the Mona Lisa.
The way I think about it too is just like celebrity autographs, right? Mm-hmm. Like without the certificate of authenticity for some of them, like anybody could have just, not anyone, but like you can get a good copycat to copy an image onto somebody else. It's not the actual autograph of the person. And like the NFT is just like you said, like the certificate of authenticity. So like, yes, you can have a copy of the same picture I have, but you, depending on the rights at the time, can't actually use it any way you want because I own the rights to that picture, right?
Mm-hmm. And but I think that images and art, I think, are kind of what confuse people, which is why I think I actually like the concept of viewing a digital games collection with NFT technology. And maybe don't think of it as like selling them as NFTs, but I think that if you integrate that type of technology in order to say the, I don't know, whatever, 900 games that I have on Steam are legally owned by me, and I can then sell them if I want to. Like say, for example, on say PlayStation Network. I know I have a game on PlayStation Network that I can tell you for sure I'm never going to play again. And that is Mass Effect Andromeda that I pre-ordered, and at the time didn't even understand that you could not return pre-orders on PlayStation Network because even from the get-go, it seemed like that game was terrible. If someone said, hey, I'll give you 25 cents for your copy of Mass Effect Andromeda, and I could say, sure, that's a quarter in my pocket, baby. I would be totally fine with that. And I think that it would be really neat if you had a collection of games or movies or songs or whatever it would be that had a degree of tangible, commodified value to it that you could actually be like, oh yeah, this is mine because I can have it and experience it however I want. I can make copies of it if I want to back it up, but ultimately it's that license, so I have to log in with my account to access my license that says I own it. But if I don't want that license anymore, I can sell it to someone else because it's an actual token that can be sold. Yeah. Right now, every game in your PlayStation library, your Steam library, your Nintendo Switch library, every song or movie you own on iTunes, at any point, someone could say, you broke our terms of service because you called someone a dirty word in a Call of Duty multiplayer match. You no longer have access to that account. They could still do that if you owned everything as an NFT, but what they couldn't then do is say, yeah, and all those games you bought, sorry. Are you giving me my money back? No. It's just, oh, okay, but I still own these games, so I could start a new account and maybe lose things like my trophies and my friends list and everything, but I still own all those games that I could then add to it. Or I could say, well, forget you guys. If you're going to kick me off, I don't want to use your service anymore. You can then sell all your games to someone else because just like the way I explained it is if you called someone a bitch in a Halo match, in a Smash Brothers match, Nintendo cannot come to your house and take your Super NES from the 90s. Yeah. Like they just can't do that. That's not something that is ever going to happen. And the NFT tech basically adds an element of that to digital games if it's integrated in the way that I'm suggesting. However, I think Ubisoft doing it as we're doing NFT microtransactions so that you can have a legendary gun in Ghost Recon Breakpoint that's unique. It's like, oh guys, you're going to torpedo this technology for decades to come if you if you lead with that foot. Like,
And I think what a lot of people don't understand as well is like, yeah, but you can copy it indefinitely. And I'm like, even digital content isn't infinite. Like someone needs to have those bytes of data on a computer on some sort of physical drive somewhere in the world, somewhere on the internet. So like you can't just copy it indefinitely. So like any sort of costume or anything, like if they say they're only going to make 500,000, like that's all they are saying that they're going to make. They can add to it, but like there is a finite resource of internet space is what I'm trying to say, or like processing power at some point, right? So that's where NFTs like are going to be used, is like to limit that, right? Like we only made this many. The only way it can get circulated now is by somebody transferring the NFT portion of this, right? But we'll see, because it is the way of the future. And obviously companies that are really good at monetizing their product will find a way to make extra money on it. You're going to like some companies that do it. You're going to not like some companies that do it. For example, our company that we really do enjoy is GOG. Yeah. Their GOG Galaxy, GOG Galaxy is something we love by CD Projekt Red. And it's been reported their revenue was up 3% last year, but their net losses were 1.14 million, even though they had like a lot of games released for the first time on GOG, and it's DRM free, but there's something in their mechanics and that they're not making as much money as they should, or they feel they should. They're going to find a way like to make it up to their investors, because that's unfortunately the way the economy works, right?
Yeah, and I think that CD Projekt, they are publicly traded, but I think only on Poland's exchange. I know, because it's like
it's very hard.
It's not easy to get like shares in CD Projekt if you're American or Canadian. But Valve, funny enough, as far as Steam is concerned, they are not publicly traded. So that's actually one of the things I find most interesting about Valve, that they're just like, no, we're like actually a private company. So like we have no fiduciary responsibility to grow. So we could just get to a level and stay there.
And just be happy with it, which is pretty key sometimes.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thing about the stock market, and that stuff I don't really understand. Like, as much as I wouldn't even argue that I understand NFTs and crypto super well, I think I have a decent handle on it. I at least have a decent enough handle on it to know that like the certificate of authenticity is what you're paying for, not the actual item itself. And that is something that as many times as I've tried to explain it to people, some of them are just like, yeah, but it's just a picture. I'm just like, you're not listening to anything I've said.
But yeah, any thoughts on GOG and how they can turn it around?
Honestly, I don't know. I'd say probably their best bet is to go super niche. Like, for example, they do a better job with the niche releases. Like, the example I was going to give was the Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 that they released not too long ago. Those were PC versions of those games that did come out when the games launched, or around the time the games launched. And GOG used to have that be their thing, where they would find old games and get them working on a modern operating system, be it with like DOSBox or whatever, and have it so that you could still buy them and have them be DRM free. If they start doing that more with games that people thought were like gone forever, or just ones that don't really run very well these days or could use some work. For example, I think actually a really funny one that it's crazy that this doesn't work very well. Fallout 3 is like notoriously kind of broken on PC, which is why New Vegas is sort of one of the reasons why New Vegas is kind of the favorite amongst Fallout fans on PC of like the Bethesda style Fallout games, because it's very easy to get running in mod, whereas Fallout 3 is kind of weird. So if they did things like go back and take older games like that and just did the work to make them very functional on modern operating systems, with Windows 11 kind of on the horizon too, it looks like there's going to be a new one coming out. So a lot of games could probably use some quality assurance, and I think that if people can reliably get games that work perfectly on GOG that they're not going to have to do any modding or tinkering for, I think they'll start doing a lot better. But I think the issue with them being digital rights management free, so having it be that you just flat out own your digital games and no one can take them from you, is a lot of companies don't really want to sign off on that because it means they might make less money than if they can control your access to that game. So if you can't, under any circumstances, make a copy of the game and give it to a friend of yours without, I don't know, a crack or like hacking it, then it does make it easier to pirate. But so I think a lot of companies will just be like, no, we're just never going to put games on GOG, which is why I don't think it ever has any chance to compete with Steam 1-to-1.
Yeah, but I don't think it needs to compete with Steam, right? I think it's a great complementary piece, right?
Yeah, but you can only be the great complementary piece while you're, a viable business. So if the thing is like, if they've been losing money now, it's like, well. But
that being said, like I think Cyberpunk pretty much like what should have helped it instead of like if Cyberpunk was the game it was built to be, then I don't think we're having this conversation, right?
Yeah, I know, and I think it's honestly it's why they should have delayed it. It's why they shouldn't. I know they wanted to pull the trigger, and I like even I had a pretty decent experience playing Cyberpunk, but it really wasn't the splash it needed to be to
keep GOG.
Well, hammer CD Projekt Red home as like the gaming company, like the Polish rock star essentially, which is anything they put out is like
solid gold.
Yeah, like the GTA trilogy that just came out. But yeah, like I think them rushing that out not only hurt them in the short term of like, they have one game that like didn't do so well. It hurt them in the long term because it's like, now you're in a situation where you don't have that consumer goodwill that would have drawn people towards your storefront, right? Especially as all these new people are adopting PC gaming. So it's a shame, and I hope CD Projekt turns it around. I'm always rooting for them because I think ultimately they are a pretty good company. They've made some mistakes for sure, but I think that they've done a lot of very consumer friendly things in the past, and I would like it if they come back and continue to do that and get rewarded for it, as opposed to them just going away forever, right?
Yeah. Games that were good this year were talked about at the Game Awards. December 9th. You were gonna live stream it, but you decided against it because realistically, I don't think watching it is that much fun anymore. Like you can basically get the gist of it a couple days later.
Yeah, I was thinking about streaming it and clowning on it and stuff, but I was like, I don't really have anyone to do it with this year, and also X-Ray Girl's gonna watch Lord of the Rings. I'd rather watch Lord of the Rings. I don't want to hear Jeff Keighley just shilling nonstop for 4 hours or whatever it is. And I heard in retrospect, I still haven't watched the entire thing. In fact, I think some of the trailers we're going to talk about I have not seen, so I might have to take a break for some of these.
Oh wow!
But yeah, that's how much I cared this year. But I heard that the shilling this year was unbelievable. Like it was like every 10 seconds they're like, and we'd like to really thank, and then there'd be some other sponsor.
We've wanted these people here like forever. Like, yeah.
The Gillette razor blade man is back, everybody.
So let's just hit things off with Game of the Year. Nominated was Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Resident Evil Village. With It Takes Two taking home like Game of the Year, which is pretty interesting. You played this though.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a very unique game. I think it's a lot of fun too, and I think it's very good. And I think if you're looking for a co-op game to play, you should play It Takes Two. That being said, I think this won Game of the Year because Joseph Fares, like the director, had the whole
fuck the Oscars, fuck the Oscars, fuck you.
That was kind of like a big moment for them. It was like a meme, and I think that the people behind the Game Awards were like, you know what, Joseph made a really good game. Let's give it to him. And like, I don't know, like even that, I'm just like, there's no way It Takes Two is not a better game than Metroid Dread. I'm sorry, guys. Like, it's not even close. It's fun and it's very clever, but it's like, I've never, in the time that X-Ray Girl and I have played It Takes Two, I've never finished playing It Takes Two and the next day just been like, baby, we gotta get back on it.
Finish this. Yeah.
Like, yeah, this needs to finish. It's like, oh yeah, how about that? We're moving around on a little frisbee that's going down a stream, and we have to row it and things like that, and we need to work together because we're Honey, I Shrunk the Kids size and adventuring through a suburban home. And
I'm thinking of getting my wife to try it out, even though she's never played a video game in her life, just because of the reception of it. But I guess what should have been the category of best game of the year, seeing as how 4 out of the 5 nominees were nominated, was best action adventure, where you still have Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank, Resident Evil, and the only change is they had Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy in there, with the winner being Metroid Dread, like you said. And the game was phenomenal. Like, it is, and like, I think we'll be talking about Metroid Dread for a while.
Yeah, and I'm actually, because I finished school today for at least the next 3 weeks, I have to go back in January, but I was playing Metroid Other M for like about 3 hours today. I'm making my way through it, get to finish that and Metroid Prime 3, and then I can actually do the Metroid video. I got most of the script done, though, so once I finish those games and write about them, it should be pretty good. What I was going to say, though, is Metroid Dread being in the same category as Psychonauts 2 and Resident Evil 8 and Guardians of the... What's going on with these categories?
Yeah.
Is that the genre award? Like, that would be like saying best superhero film. We've got Spider-Man No Way Home, and we have Dune, and we have... Yeah. It's like, wait, Dune? It's like, yeah, Jason Momoa's in it. It's a superhero movie, whatever. There's action. There's fighting.
They have
we saw a big worm.
Like, yeah.
It's like... yeah, but it's like, maybe have a science fiction category. But I think for games, it's like, hey, are there not enough 2D action games coming out that Metroid Dread's category could be 2D action game?
Yeah.
3D action adventure game and a different category for first-person shooters. Because it's like, well, because I mean, these aren't the same type of thing. And yeah. I think that is the real mistake of the Game Awards, and it's them showing their hand. It's why you should never take this show seriously as actual awards, because the awards don't mean anything to them. If the awards meant something, if you were meant to tune into this show to see awards, the awards would have much more thought put into them. But they're not. They're just fired off. Like, I heard this year also another thing was Jeff Keighley apparently did a lot of, and the nominees for Best Mobile Game are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the winner is blank. And Best Strategy Game, the nominees are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's this one. And Best Role-Playing Game, this one. So that's like 3 awards that were done in 10 seconds. And now a word from our sponsors. World premiere. That's like, man, so... It really is, you're just getting us to tune in for 3 hours of commercials for both games and products who have sponsored you. Like, that's what that is. And it's why the Game Awards, I think, is and always will be a joke until they change that. It's kind of what, I mean, to a degree, it's what like the Oscars and stuff are kind of turning into too, except instead of product placement, it's just Hollywood people like sucking each other off.
Yeah, but they've also spent like 50 years doing it the right way, that they've built that cred, right? Like the Game Awards went right to the finals. Let's just shill and make as much money as possible.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, I think that was it Summer Games Fest, the thing Jeff Keighley did at E3?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was pretty much just trailer with the odd commercial and something in between, and Jeff Keighley, being like, Jeff Keighley, good host guy, like he's not bad at what he does. Yeah. But I mean,
like at this point, it should just be the Winterfest guide. Like, just do summer and winter.
Like, it's just like, hey man, just call this what it is. Because then you don't have people having a bunch of arguments about what should be nominated, what should be winning. Or make it that, but do it well. Like, actually think about what you're nominating and what, like, how many first-person shooters come out a year that you can't have a category for first-person shooters?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, Severed Steel couldn't get a nomination for something this year? Like, come on.
No, but what we got was most anticipated game, where we had Elden Ring, God of War, Horizon Forbidden West.
The winner of that will tell you everything you need to know about that category. Who won?
Oh, you don't know who won?
Oh, no, I know who won, but who won?
Elden Ring.
Who won last year?
Was it Elden Ring again?
Yes.
But the trailer they did show was amazing. Like, shows the story.
Sure, but that, like, what I mean is, but you can throw the trailer or have a show to be like, hey, we're going to have a bunch of premieres. We're going to have a new Elden Ring trailer. It's going to focus on the story. It's going to be sponsored by a few things. We're going to have a few musical acts and things. And it's just going to be Winter Games Fest or Christmas Games, or whatever you want to. Probably wouldn't be Christmas, but
Winter Games Fest seems fine. And
yeah, I know. And honestly, I hope that what Keighley did with Summer Games Fest, not that I thought that was an incredible show or anything like that, but at least it was a bit more to the point. And it was what it was. Yeah, it didn't pretend to be a serious award show that it's like, oh, well, Game of the Year. That's the game of the year. It's actually every time I'll be in a conversation with someone and they'll be like, oh man, this game won Game of the Year. I'll be like, from who? And they're like, the Game Awards, obviously. I was like, yeah, dude, those matter not at all. Honestly, you could probably make a better case for Giant Bomb's Game of the Year discussions being a more legitimate Game of the Year, because that is like, granted, I haven't been crazy about Giant Bomb over the last couple of years and haven't been keeping up with it, but they did it in a really interesting way where it was like 5 days of podcasts that were like 4 hours long. And it would usually be about 20 finalist games that they would have 4 or 5 people in a room discussing each game individually. And it wasn't so much, this is actually the best game of the year that we all agree on. It's like this game versus this game. Let's talk about it. And if someone on the panel is like, yeah, I think it's actually this game and here's why, it's like, okay, make a case for it. And then you can see that person making like a legitimate case for why that game deserves to be number 5 over this other game. And I was like, okay, well, that's actually like some in-depth stuff. Not a lot of people are going to watch all that, though. So it's like, well, if you want to find the middle ground between snappy 3-hour-long, 2-hour, it's not really snappy, but like, let's say 2-hour-long awards ceremony, but with some prestige to it, I think the first thing you got to sort out is the categories. Like you have to make it so that the categories actually seem like they're made by someone who's played a video game and not by someone who just Googled biggest games of 2021. And it's just like, okay, let's nominate Psychonauts and It Takes Two and Metroid, something like that. Yeah, that Metroid lady's pretty hot. Why don't we put her on the thumbnail?
Sassy too. As you mentioned, the reveals are probably the better portion of this. So let's talk about some of those reveals. Did you watch the one for Hellblade 2?
I did. That one I was very impressed with, because I can't tell you how many people tried to basically say the thing that I complain about with a lot of trailers. It's like, yeah, but it was a CGI trailer. I'm like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No, I think like that is actually a real-time rendered trailer with gameplay that you can see. And like granted, it seems very simplistic, at least in that sequence where she's basically just throwing spears at a giant. But it's like, well, no, but that is not just CGI that's meant to look like gameplay. Like that, the original Hellblade basically looked like that. This just looks like that with more money.
Did you play the original Hellblade?
Oh yeah, I played it twice. It's awesome.
There we go.
Strongly recommend Hellblade. If you haven't played it, it's a good time and it's not very long. It's maybe 5 hours, and play it with headphones though. Either play it with headphones, or if you have a really good surround sound system, that's kind of acceptable too. But honestly, headphones is the best bet. Headphones better than good surround sound system, because the cool thing about Hellblade is it's a girl. You play as a girl who has psychosis, so she's hearing voices, and they record them with like a binaural microphone, like the ones that like the ASMR girls on Twitch and stuff use, where it's like kind of like 2 ears, or it's like a stereo microphone essentially that has 2 distinct ears. And they have people kind of walking around while they're recording. I watched a making of documentary on it, delivering the lines into these microphones. So as you're walking around as Senua, you hear like the voices in her head just sort of all around you at like different distances away. Sometimes they give you warnings like, watch out behind you, and then you turn around and there's a sword coming down at you. But sometimes they lie to you because she's crazy. And it was It was really, really interesting and unique. The combat's pretty simplistic. I thought it was pretty solid though. It's like basically just attack button and time some parries. But Ninja Theory, who made like the Devil May Cry remake and a couple other games, like this one game Enslaved Odyssey to the West that was actually quite good. And one that I didn't play, which was Heavenly Sword on PS3, it was kind of people would always call it Goddess of War because it looks like a God of War game, and on the cover it's like this pretty lady with red hair. But anyways, I do recommend Senua's Sacrifice quite a bit. Senua's Saga kind of looks like it's going for the God of War market more. Like there is, I guess, one kind of big monster you fight in Senua's Sacrifice, but this was production value kind of on another level. And I was really impressed with the trailer, and it's the same girl who was playing Senua in it, and it seems like she's acting her little butt off in this one. You hear like her voice cracking when she's screaming and stuff like that, and you're just like, oh man, they're going all out for this one.
Did you know the original was in VR too? So
yeah, I fired it up in VR and I didn't like it. The VR,
oh really?
It's still third person. It's just you can kind of look around her. And it's disorienting to play. It's much better just play it on
the way you made it sound screen. With voices all around you. I feel like that would have just been
no, because it's not first person. It's like an over the shoulder. It sort of looks like God of War 2018 while you're playing it, but
got it.
No boy. There's no boy button in Senua's Sacrifice.
Did you see the trailer for Gollum, Lord of the Rings?
No, I did not.
Speaking of the fact that you were watching Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I did see the original trailer for Gollum, and I thought it looked very bad. So that's one of the, like I said, some of them I just didn't even bother watching because they're like, oh, there's a new trailer for Gollum. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna play Gollum. What story is there to tell about Gollum between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings that I need to know? Yeah, because I know that he was captured by the orcs of Mordor and tortured until he said the two words Shire Baggins, and then that kind of kicks off the ring wraiths going after the hobbits in Fellowship of the Ring. I know this for sure. I just watched the movie instead of watching the Game Awards, funny enough. So actually, I might have been watching that scene while the Gollum trailer was premiering, for all I know. But yeah, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like special. A stealth game, right? Like, isn't it like
like that's the thing. You can play as what's his Hobbit name? Sméagol. You can can act as Sméagol, where you will hide and like play stealth or you can you use his Gollum. It looks like you play as like his Gollum personality, and that's like trapping people and trying to kill them.
Oh, okay. It was like traps, maybe. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? Is it like an action game?
No.
If Gollum has a sword at any point in this game, I'm out. I'm quitting the podcast.
But something that you were pretty critical of in the past, but I wonder if you changed your tune. Did you watch the Suicide Squad trailer?
Yes. And yeah, looks all right. I've got to give the Suicide Squad some credit. It made playing as Captain Boomerang look interesting. I think it was kind of weird though because they gave him powers. I guess like Captain Boomerang always like runs super fast and teleport short distances.
I don't think so. I've never seen that.
I'm not like a big Suicide Squad guy. I've seen the movies and the animated one, Batman or Assault on Arkham.
Assault on Arkham.
Yeah. And so yeah, like I don't know. I enjoyed the Suicide Squad, like the James Gunn movie, but I wouldn't say I'm like an expert on the whole team. I kind of thought Captain Boomerang was always a pretty weak character. Clearly,
yeah, just
James Gunn did too, which is why they killed him off in like the first 2 minutes of the Suicide Squad. But yeah, no, that looked fun. It looks kind of like a Gears of War type game. It's sort of like an over the shoulder shooter. Like even King Shark had guns and stuff like that. And that was that mixed with a lot of cool mobility that almost seemed like a mix between like Arkham with a bit of kind of like Dishonored or Deathloop type stuff. And yeah, no, I mean, if they put together a good story and the co-op is fun, then yeah, that could be another Guardians of the Galaxy type game where it's just like, hey, that was a solid superhero movie, but with multiplayer. A solid superhero movie like game. But yeah, no.
Well, it looks like they're focusing more on the gameplay of it, right?
Yeah. But I mean, there was a lot of stuff with like Flash kind of popping in and out of it and being a little more snarky than he normally is because Brainiac has presumably brainwashed the Justice League. Yeah. But I don't know. I think I'm definitely more excited to play Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League than I was a month ago. And everything I see about it makes me more interested in it, whereas Gotham Knights is kind of going in the other direction. I was pretty on board with Gotham Knights when it was first announced, but everything I've seen and heard about it since, I'm just like, no, I don't know.
Well, it is being published by Warner Brothers Montreal, which, as I've always said, Montreal holds a special place in my heart. And Eidos Montreal just did a pretty good job with Guardians of the Galaxy, like you just said. So
yeah, but remember, BioWare Montreal made a Mass Effect Andromeda.
You son of a bitch. The only we saw a trailer for Forspoken, but it was really just a CGI trailer.
Oh, actually, I didn't see that one either. I don't know. I think Forspoken looks okay, though. What is upsetting me about Forspoken is, again, technically it's the second one because Final Fantasy just came out on Epic, but Forspoken will be the first game on Steam to release at next-gen console prices. And no one's happy about that. Everyone's like, ooh, I don't know, Square Enix, if you want Forspoken to sell well, I don't think making it $80 or I guess it would be 80 for us, 70 for, it's 70, right?
70 US. But at least it's only Square Enix that's doing it with both of their games. So we'll see how they go, right? I
mean, and that's Forspoken, I think will be a better gauge for how it will actually work. Whereas, although Final Fantasy VII, as much as I would say Final Fantasy VII Remake is one of those ones is like, okay, that's going to sell like crazy no matter what. It's like, well, it's been out on PlayStation for a while now, though.
Yeah, they've already had
$70 for like a 2-year-old game. So
yeah, like they've already had PS4 exclusivity. Then they had PS5 with the DLC. Like it's really just
only
the
on
PC.
PS5 DLC.
It's really just the PC and I guess Xbox players that play on PC that haven't tried the game yet, right? At this point.
Well, I mean, if I haven't tried it, but just because I hadn't gotten around to playing it on PS5, and I just knowing PS5 was about to come out and it being 30 FPS on PS4, I was just like, I'll wait on that one. It's part one of God knows how many years there's going to be in between. So I was just like
without an announcement for like, hey, at least just say like part 2 coming soon, something to like. Let us know you're working on it.
It's Nomura though, and he does the Kingdom Hearts games, and the first Kingdom Hearts game came out on PlayStation 2, and the third one came out like a year ago.
Yeah.
Like
last game that I wanted to talk about was, well, I guess it's a game, the Matrix Resurrections or Matrix Awakens on PS5.
Yeah, I played that today, or played it. I watched it today. I mean, it is, you kind of play it.
You can play a little bit of it, but I guess like just what Unreal 5 can do looks pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, I worry that I see people in groups being like, oh man, that Matrix Awakens demo, like that's the first really next gen thing I've seen. Like that's the future, baby. And I'm just like, oh, they turned everything up to 11 and made it 30 FPS though. It's the last thing I want this generation of console games to go into. Because I've been really happy with every single game I've played on a console this past few years. Performance mode and quality mode. Goodbye quality mode. I pick performance mode and I get a 60 FPS game. Whereas this Matrix game was locked to 30. It looked really nice when they were structuring exactly what you were seeing. But at the end of basically, I'll set up the premise of this. So essentially it's a little kind of intro that's live action with Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss. And it kind of transitions into being real-time rendered cinematic graphics, and it looks pretty real, almost exactly real, though as you start watching it more, it kind of loses its luster. Like so when they're first kind of talking, it's fine, but then there's a shot where you see Carrie-Anne Moss walking, and it seems like she's trying to walk in a really awkward way, as if she's trying to match what the animation's gonna look like.
Yeah.
And I just was thinking off the bat, I was like, you seem like you're trying to walk as strangely as possible, or that's your face superimposed onto a character model that's walking, and the other ones that are going to be around you in a moment that are the real-time rendered ones, as opposed to you being the live action ones, are just rendered faces as opposed to like an actual photograph mapped onto it. Then you are in a car on a highway with Neo and Trinity, and it's almost like they go out of their way to sideline Neo in a weird way that doesn't like make a lot of sense. Like there's just all of a sudden this girl in the back seat's like, hey, I thought this demo was supposed to train me how to fight the machines. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, don't worry about it. I'll get out of here. And Neo literally opens the passenger side door and flies out of the car and goes away. That's the end of Keanu Reeves for the whole rest of the thing. And you start playing as this girl, and like you lean out the window and start shooting cars because there's agents jumping out of the cars, and it's almost like one of those old arcade light gun games, but with lock targeting. So there's no challenge to it at all. Like it's not a shooter. It's not like a Matrix action scene. Yeah, you're basically playing a video with quick time events, and you can choose when to fire the gun, and it's just fire, reload animation, fire. But it was kind of weird to me. Like I was just like, wait, why aren't we just playing as Neo and Trinity?
Yeah.
I mean, why did they just shoehorn this girl that we don't know into this little demo?
Well, probably it was too expensive to get them to record all their voices.
They don't really say much though. Like the girl's just like, oh yeah, now I get to use the big gun. Like how much more money would that have cost them?
Yeah, I guess so.
And Carrie-Anne Moss is still there. You're like, man, why don't you just have us play as Trinity and have Neo just be driving the car then? Like, I don't know. But I found that part of it strange, but it's like, okay, well, I guess like that doesn't really affect the tech demo. But then at the end of it, you can walk around as this girl and just kind of walk through the city. You also have the ability to like switch to a drone mode and kind of fly around. The flying around I actually found pretty cool because it was like, oh, this city actually looks crazy real. Like it does look incredible. The people though and the walking animations do not look good, and like that's why there are all these people saying, oh man, that's the best looking thing I've ever seen in a video game. It's like, man, like Watch Dogs 1 had better like character graphics than this game does. Like they look very, very bad, and there's a lot of like dithering around the edges of the characters. I'm just like, I don't know what people were really writing home about at this. And the performance being locked at 30, basically it's good. They had to have it at 30 because they just cranked the ray tracing up to like level 12. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, like the game, it looks really, really good. It makes me hope that the hardware in the future will be able to run stuff that looks like that, but with better animation and, better frame rates. But I think that if people are expecting that we're going to have like Grand Theft Auto 6, but it's going to look like that, I don't think so.
Well, not yet anyways.
Well, I mean, this generation, I think that's like, if you're looking at like solid performance, but the visuals looking that nice, like PlayStation 6 and beyond, bro. Like that's not happening on my computer. It's not happening on your PS5, like flat out. I mean, it's why everything was as like tightly structured as it was. At the same time, it's free. It's like, it's a neat little tech demo. It shows off what Unreal can do. It makes me realize why companies like Lucasfilm have been doing that Unreal Engine cinematography technology for stuff like Mandalorian and Boba Fett. Because, I mean, honestly, if you put live action characters in that city walking around and just the background was the graphics of the city that you can kind of fly around in real time in that Matrix demo, yeah, that looks good. Like the environments look incredible. I'm like, yeah, that like it could trick your eye into thinking you're just watching live action footage, but the people, it's not there yet.
Yeah. That's all I got for this week. You have anything else to add?
No, I guess not. I mean, I suppose this is going to be our last one for the year, for 2021 at least. Assuming, though, I guess there's a possibility that we might be able to do an episode when Fonz has returned to the homeland. And we won't both be in this room, but if we do an episode or just like a reaction to something where Fonz, it looks like he's in X-Ray Girl's office, it's because he's in X-Ray Girl's office, because Fonz comes back to the homeland to visit for the holidays. But we'll see how that goes when it happens. But I guess that's it.
Besides that, it's been a fun year so far starting off this podcast, and hope everyone enjoys the holidays. And remember, it's not be good.
It's get good, Scrubs.